Hello, and welcome to my presentation. So, the podcast that I listened to and worked on was called Don't Accentuate the Positive. So, in the episode, the host discusses society's need for positivity. Everyday influencers and self-help gurus are telling us on social media that all we need to do to achieve happiness and the perfect life is to think positive and good things will come your way, which more often than not makes us feel worse about our own lives despite their intentions being to uplift and motivate us. The world tends to feed us this idea that negative thinking yields negative results, but research and personal experiences prove quite the opposite. So in the episode, Dr. Laurie Santos discusses the power of negative thought with psychologist Gabrielle Oettingen, and we hear some personal experiences from renowned swim coach Bob Bowman and retired Navy SEAL Kristen Beck. So what really stood out was learning that thinking positively all the time actually inhibits your ability to achieve your goals. Thinking negatively is really helpful, and when you think about it, it actually makes sense. Another frequent theme is mental practice and WHOOP, which I will cover a little later on. So thinking positively versus thinking negatively. What does it mean? And how do they differ? Most people believe that if you envision a future where you have everything you want, the universe will just hand it to you because you're putting out that positive energy. But in reality, vividly envisioning yourself succeeding decreases your chance of doing just that. This is because your brain is very susceptible to suggestion. And so when you vividly envision that you're doing something or you've achieved something, it actually tricks your brain into thinking that you've done that thing or that you've achieved that goal. So you relax and you stop putting in the effort because it feels like you already have what you want. For example, research has shown that students who envision getting perfect grades actually end up doing worse, and then later on, they're more unhappy. More unhappy than people who don't always think positively. On the other hand, when people imagine all of the things that could possibly go wrong, they're more prepared, know what to expect, and are ready to handle any outcome. For example, when talking to Michael Phelps' swim coach, Bob Bowman, the audience learns that he would have Michael mentally trained by vividly imagining the pool and basically have him train in his head. And have him envision himself achieving his goals. But during a competition, something happened that the two of them did not train for or prepare for. Michael's goggles filled with water, and he could not see. But during his mental training, Michael Phelps actually would envision things going wrong. And among these things that he had envisioned, he imagined what it would be like to swim blindly. So while others would panic when that would happen, he knew exactly what to do, and he was prepared. And he, in his head, knew how many strokes it would take to get from one side of the pool to the other. And because of this, he ended up winning gold and breaking the world record. So, mental practice is the exercise of observing yourself and your circumstances in an effort to pursue and achieve realistic goals. In this, you are acknowledging possible outcomes, as well as acknowledging yourself and your shortcomings or internal obstacles. And those outcomes, they don't always have to be negative. The point is that you are prepared for anything and everything. When you self-reflect, you will have to ask yourself some questions which may be difficult to answer, including, what are your personal or internal obstacles? Is anyone around you preventing you from achieving your goals? What are your insecurities, strengths, weaknesses? What are you afraid of? And what are your real priorities? In answering these questions, you can find solutions and overcome your obstacles. So you can focus your energy into what your goals are and what your priorities are. So now, on to WHOOP. As I had said before, mental practice is not easy, but to organize it a little better, Gabrielle Oettingen and her husband, Peter Gollwitzer, created the acronym WHOOP, which stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, and Plan. Wish being, what is your goal? What do you want for yourself? Outcome is you want to find the best outcome and imagine it. And then find the central inner obstacle that stands in your way. It can be something that's stopping you from getting where you want to be, or it could be an environmental or circumstantial problem, something in your life that is stopping you from getting where you want to be. And then you form a plan, an if-then plan, to figure out how am I going to overcome this barrier? And why does it work? WHOOP works because it forces you to take a good look at yourself, and it forces you to be realistic with yourself based on what your circumstances are. It also helps you get rid of unrealistic or impossible fantasies that are just completely unattainable, that make you feel guilty because you're not able to achieve them. You're like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I achieve this goal? Why can't I put energy towards this? It makes you feel just completely depleted of energy. And once you get rid of those, then you can focus all of your energy onto attainable, achievable, realistic goals. So I have another story from Kristen Beck, who is a trans retired Navy SEAL, and her job in the Navy SEALs was to plan for every single outcome. Anything that could possibly happen, they had to have a solution in case things went wrong on a mission. As a trans woman, she faces harassment, discrimination, and physical violence. In these more difficult times, even she has a hard time facing herself and her circumstances to see how she can get past her personal challenges, even if it would help herself and society as a whole. Society, because she is an advocate, and people look to her to help make the world a safer place for trans women and trans people. And when you're actually putting mental practice into practice, it can be daunting. It's not easy. It takes time, energy, and blatant honesty with yourself. Your internal obstacles, your fears. Oftentimes, we would rather put on a metaphorical blindfold, pretend it's not there, and hope that it goes away. But in reality, a lot of time and effort needs to be put in. It is not easy. But in the end, it's all worth it, because once you get beyond those obstacles, you can fully focus on what you want and you can go after it. And how could mental practice apply to you? As college students, we are all here to achieve some kind of goal. So it's pretty helpful to have those tools to be able to better look at ourselves, understand ourselves and our lives as a whole, so that we know how to get exactly where we want. So thinking negatively, we can be prepared for any obstacle, anything that could happen, which, being in college, there's a lot of different outcomes, with grades. You need all kinds of different plans so that you can get beyond and achieve. You can start with just a short 5-minute reflection, use Whoop, and figure out what's in your way and what are you going to do to overcome it. Research shows that doing this will increase your chances of achieving realistic goals. So, in my experience, I have faced a lot of my own challenges that require me to take a good long look at myself, especially when it comes to school. Years ago, I was very unorganized, losing papers, not even knowing that there was homework due because I didn't write it down, not turning things in, and all of these would lead me to get bad grades. And it wasn't easy for me. I had to really come to terms with myself and what I needed to do. It took a lot of internal reflection on myself. And now I can't live without my lists, my planners, calendars. I write down everything. And now I'm able to stay on top of all of my work. But it wasn't easy. And something that I still struggle with is math. That's another one that I've always had a really hard time with. But because I've reflected and I understand myself from just years of looking at myself and looking at my behaviors and how I think and just how my brain works, I know that it just takes me way more work to be able to understand math than anyone else, really. So I need to practice math a lot. And if I don't get something, I need to watch a video, and I need to watch them multiple times till I get that concept. It takes a lot of work for me. But it's better now because I did do the work on myself to figure out what I needed to achieve the goals that I had, which are to become better at math or to be more organized. But it takes the work and the time and the energy, but it's worth it. So the concepts that I chose are Facebook envy, envying or resenting others' happiness as represented on social media. The reason I chose this is because we are all shown people with perfect lifestyles, and they're constantly telling us to think positive and we'll get anything that we want. But it's really not that easy. You know, it takes a lot more work than just hoping that you'll achieve whatever you want. It takes work. And the second concept, I chose balance theory, the want to be cognitively balanced, lives to be in harmony. People prefer balance over unbalanced states. They are motivated to change their attitudes or behaviors in order to find that balance. The reason I chose that is because though thinking negatively is more helpful overall, it's also good to have some positivity and optimism. You can't live your life worrying or planning for the worst to happen. It's good to have some hope and some optimism for yourself. It's healthy. So there's that balance that you need in life. So the takeaways, envisioning and recognizing the negatives can help you prepare for many different outcomes and how to handle them when they come up or if they come up. Mental practice and WHOOP can help you identify your goal, reflect on your internal and even external obstacles and overcome them, and then discard unrealistic fantasies so that you can focus on your prioritized goals, what you really want. And finally, mental practice can be daunting, and it takes a lot of time, energy, and honesty, but it's worth it because not only do you get to pursue and possibly achieve your goals, it also betters yourself because you can face the more unfavorable parts of you head on that stop you from doing what you want. It really does take a certain level of strength and courage to be able to be really honest with yourself and who you are. So even just being able to do that is a huge achievement in itself. And to finish up, I would like to leave off with a quote from Kristen Beck, which I thought was very, very, it just really encompassed the whole point. I really like this quote: seeing life as positive, but also knowing that negatives exist and to plan for those negatives. The world isn't all positive. There are lots and lots of negatives that exist, and it's so much better. You know, they say ignorance is bliss, but it's really not, because, you know, ignoring the fact that negatives exist does not make them go away. So it's better to be aware, plan for them, so that you can get past them to achieve whatever you could possibly want. thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed. And that is it. Thank you.